Our initial impression of ATIRA was the rawness of its uncrafted green, except from the people that come for jogging and walking here. We observed somewhat collectively the overgrown vegetation and the buildings hidden in between. We see the vegetation and the buildings almost in symbiosis with each other, as if they were one at first glance. Thus, that became our hints to investigate the conditions present in relation to the built vegetation, the ground, and the sky, and in relation with each other. For this abandoned house, there is a clear effect of takeover by the overgrowth, be it the courtyard, walls, or door.
In most of the cases, the relation of plinth seems carefully reduced, and the entrance is right at the road where the houses start. The idea of threshold to transition space seems to be vanishing. With a change in scale, it becomes clear that the dense patch of green dominates. The wilderness has taken over Attira. The d- dense patch of green has become a jogger's park.
Zooming out of Atira, there are other such green spaces of refuge offered within the larger university circle. Public parks are the first such obvious places observed. These are formal structured spaces with regulated entries, manicured lawns, and vegetation. They specify how to use the space. Other structured spaces are sports field, hatched in brown, some open while others gated within individual university complexes. They can only be used during university hours. The university area, however, offers another different kind of space, a more unstructured fluid one, the Maidhan, demarcated in brown. There are no restrictions for its uses or use. These Maidans can be seen as unstructured spaces. They are large clearings which are often used for special occasions, sports, and picnics, and are usually open for all. They act as spaces to gather. The park and Maidan therefore represent structured and unstructured play respectively. Let's increase the scope, shall we? What if we look at structured and unstructured recreation instead? This is the boundary of universities, and these are the transport networks that connect the area and it to the city. We add structured recreation spaces such as libraries, shown as pink pins, for those in universities and green ones for those accessible to everybody. The auditorium and stays like guest houses and hotels and restaurants in relation to the spaces of play. These spaces are characterized by clearings or large spanning spaces. It becomes obvious these are the gathering spaces in close proximity to the university. Thus, what remains is Atira at the center of the two halves of the universities, the last sole refuge of wilderness in the city. Through the nature of its unstructured wilderness, Atira offers seclusion, a place where you can loiter and avoid social interaction if you want, where the built meets phenomena of natural processes, the clearing, and those of the built, that is, the circulation, act as a gathering space within and around it. Taking this comparison one step further, one has to consider time. Arranging the activities and spaces according to their times of use make it clear that Maidans are not favorable to be used during the afternoon due to the hot sun. People wish for the shade of the wilderness during the day, offering a degree of privacy and individuality. But during the evenings and night, everyone gathers in the Maidans while avoiding the wilderness. The parks are only open during the day and have limited access points, but all the cow gullies, spaces of unstructured recreation occupying the roads bordering Atira, take advantage of the cooling effects of the wilderness while not being in it. The accumulations of stands for food, chai stalls, are around the university areas and therefore also in the front of the south gate of Atira. Those street functions as gathering spaces. Every morning, joggers come and park their cars outside Atira in front of AMA, and after it closes at 8 am, they sit outside the clearing, that is the entrance to Atira and AMA, drinking chai before going back home to prepare themselves for work. A similar situation emerges in the evening.
Speaking of time, let us take a step back and look at the university over the past 2 decades. What we see is that as the structured university spaces expands and proliferate, the surrounding area and once the open green spaces or Maidan are slowly being swallowed up by universities building and high rises, while ATIRA on the other hand has become more unstructured and less programmatic. By questioning the functionality of the campus, we go back to the time when the campus was first conceived.
Post-independence, the wealthy elites of Ahmedabad, the mill-owner families who made a fortune through the textile trade in the war, attempted to connect the city's industries to global networks of capital and development and build new markets in India. They looked to modernism to foster this new culture, and architecture played a crucial role in their efforts. The mill owners built new structures from residential to commercial and institutional, one of them being Ahmedabad Textile Industries Research Association. Designed by Achyut Kanvinde, a young Bauhaus graduate, ATIRA was completed in 1954 and included research laboratories, auditoriums, factories, on-campus guest houses and staff quarters.
But in today's plan of ATIRA, the effect of weathering can be tracked as to which parts are still in use versus what is totally taken over. For example, these two buildings, there are some references of human activities, whereas this looks abandoned. New shortcuts are being formed in the campus through the dirt, which are now more in use by some. Not just the sand, but also the ones which are concrete are weathered and there are tiny green sproutings. The mud also has the sense of new shortcuts which are now more in use. This way, the ground, unplanned or maybe intentionally planned, blurs the distinction of used, unused, and the user. Even for the main building with its structured clearing and the so-called cricket ground with its unstructured clearing within the wilderness.
So, what if you remove the circulation from today's plan? Evidently, the campus has weathered. Can one draw new circulation spaces through ATIRA without losing what it currently is? But what is ATIRA? If we look at it today, there are almost no people living on the campus anymore. The former road for car changed to a jogger's track during the mornings and the evenings. So, what is it? Still a place for production? A jogger's track? A place for pleasure? What is its potential?
As we explored in the previous chapter, the original purpose of ATIRA, being a research center, has receded. The overgrowth, in the absence of a purpose, has taken over. The built spaces have become objects within the landscape, like scattered islands of clearings within a sea of wilderness, only controlled by the defined boundaries of the ATIRA campus. Answering the question of what ATIRA is in the context of the university neighborhood in which it's centrally located, it has become a contained void, used by the neighborhood as a walker's path. The different universities in the neighborhood have fragmented, only relating to each other through history and proximity. Changing this was the inception of our idea of using ATIRA as a vessel that brings them together, a consortium of neighborhood universities, to unite them with a shared space while preserving the identity of each institute within the collective. The built environment of ATIRA, currently scattered objects, was consolidated and guided by this idea of a consortium. The wilderness, where the human presence and purpose are diminished, is not lost. If the built spaces were imagined as for the collective, the northern half of the site remains wild, so it can be continued to be enjoyed as a walker's path in the neighborhood solely for the individual. The built spaces and its manicured gardens, that is the collective, were ordered as spaces of thresholds, with some of them addressing the city directly, others nestled in, getting increasingly secluded, and some fading away, giving way to the wilderness, that is, the individual completely. The collective campus was conceived as an extension to the existing universities in the neighborhood. Therefore, there exists the presence of each university on the campus, a University Consortium Campus. One such way was a program allowing the continuation of education beyond a typical university credit and degree structure. This necessitated for conference spaces and an R&D center. The R&D facilities become a consortium connecting research and industry together. The scope of the idea was expanded by including the purpose of post-academic education and reskilling. Hence, the Ahmedabad Management Association, or the AMA, which exists between the city edge and the campus, becomes a part of the campus and is one of the first points of contact with the neighborhood. The R&D facilities, the last residue of the original program of ATIRA, were moved to be merged with AMA into the larger space dedicated to the integration of education with industry, filling the gap left by existing universities. The R&D spaces also provide facilities to experiment with new ideas. The Consortium Campus thus includes incubators for newly graduated students and startups, allowing such experiments and ideas to grow to success. These incubators involve workspaces to ideate by redesigning the 12 modules which were previously staff residences. This district of incubation is also connected to the city's edge. Any individual or a small group of beginners can pitch in to rent this space to start their business journey. The incubators and the R&D facilities share a common repository of information in the form of the University Consortium Library, programmatically and physically bridging the two spaces. The library is a quasi-public, catering both to the campus and visitors, buffered from the city through a manicured garden. A core idea leading to the introduction of a consortium of universities was the shared history between the establishment of these universities and the city. So what if we scale up the idea of a shared resource, as the library does within the campus, into an axis and record of shared histories to service the entire educational community of the neighborhood? This idea manifests as a collective archive program for all the universities. The existing ATIRA building by Kanvinde, inset within the campus, is redesigned as the University Consortium Archives. This iconic building, archived as part of the neighborhood's architectural history itself, is reimagined as the core of the new campus. This core connects work, research, and academia by storing and providing an opportunity to overlay these histories through new, undiscovered connections within them. The existing factory becomes a new exhibition for the archives, and ATIRA Auditorium is renewed to aid the dissemination of the information that the archives as an institution strives to achieve. While these constitute the institutional zone of the campus, towards the west, a different human institution is conceived. ATIRA initially resembled an industry town, consisted of housing for the workers arranged according to the hierarchy of ATIRA's organizational structure. Our new proposal caters to the needs of institutional accommodation in the university area by reordering the hierarchical typology based on the period of accommodation. The various existing staff quarters scattered within the wilderness are proposed as the new guest and staff housing. The University Consortium guest houses host visiting scholars and researchers of the University Consortium and the other universities in the neighborhood, according to their duration of stay, instead of being forced to rent a hotel. The University Consortium staff housing provides housing to the permanent staff members who are responsible for the maintenance of the campus, such as the security guards, gardeners, and their families. As mentioned earlier, the wilderness took hold of the receding purpose of ATIRA, and a park for the neighborhood that was unplanned for came into being. We wanted to maintain that sense of a park that ATIRA continues to be for the dense urban neighborhood in our University Consortium campus. Through the nature of its unstructured wilderness, the northern half of the university campus continues to allow a walker's park solely for an individual to escape into, away from any social engagement, to retreat and loiter. The northern edge between the wilderness and the city consists of other set of gates allowing conditional access to the campus, and the wall becomes another type of consortium for the neighborhood, one of maintenance. It manifests as a system of dry compost for the detritus collected from all the university campuses, along with the rest of spaces for dry toilets and water filling stations for any city users. As we observed, due to the growth of the Vikram Sarabhai Marg, and of the city towards the south. The Grand North entrance lost its prominence to the uncurated South entrance. Therefore, we were convinced of a complete reorientation of the campus circulation, now catering to this new city edge to the south. Vehicular access is next to the R&D along the east of the campus. The R&D and the incubators receive the pedestrians, with the library bringing the two at the center. The R&D further connects to the archives at the core of the campus, now reoriented towards the south, which mark the edge between the wilderness and the built. The housing and accommodations are provided with a separate access road marking the western boundary of the campus so that their residents can easily access the city. The PRL housing can also open into this road, taking advantage of the common security checkpoints. Zooming out, an added layer of time now helps understand the context of the proposed campus. The idea is to allow the park users from the city to engage with the social activities of the campus and allow them to interact with the members of the campus. This was achieved by tying the individual and collective spaces in the campus together by the walking paths, while maintaining the existing timings of the conditional access to the campus. The campus is open to the walkers in the morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and in the evenings from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. through these gates. The access to the university campus for its members and students is however extended post the typical 9 to 5 work hours till 10 p.m. The evening walking sessions of the city users thus coincide with the people finishing up their work, and parts of the campus such as the auditorium get activated, aiding to the occurrence of happy accidents between the walkers and the different activities on campus. Thus, even though we retain an idea of a regulated hard boundary, the permeable collective spaces within the individual spaces bound by the paths have transformed and reactivated the campus within the neighborhood.